guys? Welcome back to Lily Reads. Hello, you guys. We are here for my February wrap up. My February wrap up is coming a little bit late because if you watch my last vlog, you will see that I did a chemical pill, and therefore I have not been in the best condition to do a wrap up. I couldn't sit down and talk to you guys, but my skin is looking great. No makeup today. Like, I'm just feeling really good about myself. It's early in the morning. I have my coffee, and I'm ready to discuss the books I read in February with you guys. February was an absolutely brilliant reading month. I enjoyed almost every single book that I read. I think I enjoyed every single book that I read. I don't think I gave a single book less than 3 stars, which is absolutely crazy. I'm trying to make sure. Yeah, no, I didn't give a single book less than 3 stars, and that, I don't know, 2023 is really starting off with a bang. What did I say before? I really do think negativity breeds creativity. I think that when you are negative sometimes, it allows for you to think outside the box and do things differently so that you can see progress. And that's what I did. I was so negative about my 2022 reading year that I decided to switch things up. I decided to pick books that, like, I'm not necessarily in the mood for, but maybe that's what I need. I need to just, be blown away by something, read something I'm not expecting. And so I think doing that has helped my reading year. So let's get right on into it. These videos are always ridiculously long for no reason, and so let's get on into it. The first book that's not the first book that I read. This is actually the last book that I read in the month of February. But we Have We Met by Camille Baker. This book is about a girl who has moved back to Chicago. Her best friend has died, and she has decided she wants to get her life together. She moves back to Chicago where she knew the best friend who had died, and she is going to try and start a new life. She's looking for a job. She's just, trying to get back on track. So when she moves to Chicago, she has a cousin who's not really her cousin, but they call each other cousins. And her cousin tries to, introduce her back to the scene, tries to get her to make friends. And her mom's so excited because her mom told her to get in contact with this girl. So because this girl's car broke down and she had to call the cousin, they start getting together. Well, she joins the cousin's friend group. And one day when she is at the friend's house, she sees that there is an app on her phone. There is an app on her phone, and it's basically telling her that she can meet the love of her life, and she's going to meet the love of her life. And before you know it, our main character starts to meet boys from her past, and they become like her dating partners to see if they are her happily ever after. I really enjoyed this book. I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars. This book was so surprising to me. I thought it was just going to be a run-of-the-mill romance. It's really short. I wasn't thinking anything of it. No, this book was really, really good. The romance in this book was really good. The romance dynamic of this book, he's one of the boys in her friend group, and I've never really read an adult romance like that. Not anytime recently where the person she's dating is a part of her friend group, and he's like, they're all part of a friend group, and she's one of the friends. That's not something you really get in adult romance. It's more of a young adult thing, but I really enjoyed that dynamic of her talking about the other guys that she's dating and him getting kind of jealous and everyone talking about who she's sleeping with because they're all friends, and he's just sitting there like, I like this girl. I really like that dynamic. I would love to read more books where the two love interests are a part of a big friend group, because that's what this book was. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the stuff about her friend dying. I enjoyed the stuff about her brother. She has a brother who is deaf. I enjoyed that. I really like this book. 4 out of 5 stars. The next book that I read was A Love-Hate Thing. Okay, this is by Whitney D. Grandison. Okay, so this book is about a boy and a girl. You got one girl who is from this affluent town. She's black. She comes from a very black and bougie family, and her family has decided to take and a boy. Now, she does know this boy. She used to know this boy when he was younger. They used to be friends, but he moved, they stopped hanging out, and went their separate ways. But now he has moved back in with them because he is now officially an orphan. His mother has died and his dad has died, and he needs some place to stay. So he is coming to stay with them. And so this book is about their relationship. She has all these preconceived notions about him because he's been, he's from the wrong side of the tracks. He has all these preconceived notions about her because, she bougie. And so this is about them living together and seeing if they can, come together and be friends. And, will it be more than that? I'm going to give this book 3.5 out of 5 stars. This book did have moments I really liked, and I think I enjoyed the, urban romance of this. This had a lot of stuff you find in those urban romance novels, and I kind of appreciate it because I do have an appreciation for those types of novels. But I do think this is just not the type of romance I'm in the mood for. This was very dramatic, and I'm not in the stage where I want to read dramatic romances, and definitely not dramatic young adult romances. So it just wasn't the time for this book for me. I found some of the dialogue to be a little bit dated, and so it just didn't fully hit for me. And then when you think of two people living together who are gonna be love interests, you expect all the cutesy moments, running into each other, going to the bathroom, having to eat breakfast together, and there aren't really much of those cute moments, and so it just wasn't my type of romance. So 3.5 out of 5 stars, but I do think it does have a home with some people. The next book that I read was Honey and Spice by Bolu Babalola. This is one of my books that I wanted to read in 2023. My 23 books to read in 2023. We can check this one off the list because I read it. Okay, in Honey and Spice, we are following some British babes. We are following this girl who goes to this British college. She's British, so she just go to college. She goes to college, and the school is kind of split up into the black kids and the white kids, and of course she's part of the black crowd, and she runs this radio podcasty show, and basically she likes to keep the girls in line. She tries to make sure everyone is getting along and everyone is together. Well, there's this one boy in the group. He is causing chaos and commotion because all the girls want to date him. So she gets on her radio show and she's like, do not date this boy. He's trying to cause dissension in the ranks and it's not going to happen. But she knows this boy because she had a run-in with this boy a few days prior, and she realizes he has this charm and stuff. So they know each other a little bit. They was flirting, ooh, yeah. And so this girl has a sneaky link. She has a sneaky link who, she ain't really feeling. She don't want to be feeling no more, but he gets to talking crazy about her at a party. And so to make him jealous or to piss him off, she kisses the boy that she told everybody to stay away from. And so they end up, talking. People are like, oh, did you only tell us to stay away from him because you wanted him? And she was like, no, because then she threw a drink at him. It's a whole thing. But lo and behold, they end up fake dating. They end up fake dating for, her radio show, and because he wants to get into photography, videography, one of the two. He wants to get into that, and so there's just a reason for them to fake date, and through that, you learn stuff about them and all that. Okay. I gave this book 3.5 out of 5 stars. Do not shoot me. Do not shoot me. I have my reasons. Okay, the first part of the book, I did not like. The first part of the book is heavy on references. I felt like the references were also a little dated for the age of these kids, but I could be wrong. This book might not take place in the present day. I do not remember. So I gave the first part of the book 2 stars, but the latter half of the book I thought was great. I gave that part of the book 4 stars. So I thought a good 3.5 would be a good place because I love the ending. When we start to learn things about both characters, I love both of their backstories. I love the way the final act unfolds. I really, really like that. But the big thing for me is y'all know I don't do fake dating. Y'all know if I knew this was a fake dating story, I probably wouldn't have put it in my 23 books to read in 2023. But I'm not a fake dating girl. I never think there's a reason for adults to fake date. I am a fake dating and young adult girl. I think it makes all the sense in the world to fake date when you're kids because that's kid business. But when you grown, I'm just spare me. And then, okay, let's say we are fake dating. You gotta give me some reasons. You gotta give me some good reasons for them to fake date. And I didn't feel like this book had good reasons for them to fake date, you know? And so I just wasn't fully invested in the characters until the end. And then by that time, it's the end, and I had already read 60% of the book. And so, like, that's my thoughts on it. But I do think this book has a home with a lot of people. I know it does. There's so many people I love and respect who adore this book. And I 100% see why. This is just not the space I am in for this book. But I want to end with some kindness. This book is beautifully written. Like, beautifully written. The characters are good. Like, once we do get into them, they are well written. This is a well written book, which you don't get all the time in romance. And so I will be picking up more stuff from Bolu Babalola. I need to get my hands on Love in Color, her short story collection. Yeah, so 3.5 for me, but it's just, you know, the premise. The premise was never gonna land for me. Anyways, the next book that we have is Blackout by Charmaine Wilkerson. I read this in my Black Fiction video. You can go head over there to watch that. So this book is about a woman. A woman has died and she has left her 2 kids a black cake. And with this black cake, she is like, I want you guys to hear about a woman. I want you guys to hear about a woman. I want you guys to hear about a story. And it'll all make sense once you play this recording. So she leaves them a black cake and she leaves them a recording. Well, we as the audience, we get to hear the recording too. And in this recording, we hear about this woman who grew up in this Caribbean, on this Caribbean island, and all the things that have happened to her and what has led to, you know, the present day and what this family is going through in the present day. I don't want to spoil anything, so that's the most I'm going to give you. It's about intergenerational problems, you know, which I adore. I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars. Let me just go into, I adore this type of story. Give me a family that has drama, but has love, but has, you know, just has all the things, just all the trauma. I love it. I love it so much. This is my type of book. This is a book I will 100% revisit. As a Black American, this book hit me in a way I wasn't expecting this book to hit. When it came to them telling the story of their family and all of that, something about it felt so, you know, like it tugged at a heartstring of this idea of survival and doing everything you possibly can to make sure that your family survives. And for you to exist, so many people had to make so many sacrifices and do so many things just to survive. And just by your existence, you are a story of survival. I loved it. 5 out of 5 stars. Okay, so the next book that we read was Amari and the Night Brothers. I went to the library and returned all of my library books, but for some reason, I forgot this was sitting in this pile, but I already have a copy of Amari and the Night Brothers. Wait on it. I got the UK cover. I got the UK cover of Amari and the Night Brothers. So which one do I want to hold up? I'll hold up this one because this is the one y'all like know. Y'all know this one more. So anyways, we have Amari. This is a middle grade book. Amari's brother has been missing. And because her brother has been missing, she has been having some behavioral issue because she go to like a snooty private school. And all the kids white, and they make fun of her because she's, you know, poor and Black. And so because she's been having a behavior issue, she's had enough of this shit. And she hits one of the little white girls for talking shit about her. And so because she does, she loses her scholarship to this school. So her and her mother get into this little tiff. And, you know, her mother's like, I work so hard and I want you just to have opportunities and to do well. And so she's sitting in her room and she's like, okay, like whatever. And so she gets a knock on the door. She gets a knock on the door and it is a delivery man. A delivery man delivers her something and he's like, this is from your brother. And she's like, girl, my brother missing. What are you talking about? He's like, I just delivered the packages, girl. Like, I don't know what you want me to say. Like, this from your brother. And so she watches it and she sees that her brother is a part of this magical world and he has invited her to join this magical world. But that does not mean her brother is alive because her brother says, if you are seeing this and I am not telling this to you myself, this is a hologram and something must have happened to me because I wanted to be able to tell you this in person that I'm part of this magical world and I'm inviting you. And so she's like, Obviously, I'm going to go to the magical world, but she's not going to the magical world for what her brother thinks she's going to go to the magical world for, to learn magic and have fun. She wants to go find her brother. She's like, no, I'm going to go find my brother. And so she heads off to this magical world, and being in this magical world, she learns about this class system, all these different types of magic, and being there, Amari is set out on a journey to save her brother. 5 out of 5 stars, 10, 10, 10 across the board. I love this book. I kind of want to make it my personality, but I don't want to be weird. I loved everything about this book. What I loved about this book, even though it's fantasy, it had so much heart to it. Amari felt like a real little black girl, and her family felt like a real black family. She has a roommate who I absolutely loved. I love this book, and what I loved about it I did love the fantasy aspects. I'm learning that I love when, like, in a fantasy world, there's different, like, sections, and, these people think witchlings. I truly love that. Or even, like, the Atlas 6. I love when, like, fantasy stuff has little sections and you do this and I do that. I love that. But I love the most the heart of this book, the stuff that grounds this book. I adore it. So, of course, I went and got my own copy. I need to return this to the library. Let me not be throwing other people's property. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I got my own copy. I got the UK hardcovers, and then I have Amari and the Great Game on the way. It's a signed copy. I don't know why they shipped separately, but yeah, I got it. I think I still am gonna buy the US hardcovers too, but like, let me wait on it. Like, I told you I'm gonna do better about book buying this year. Let's move on. Patience is a Subtle Thief by Abiyoshola Ayudehi. Patience is a Subtle Thief. This book is about a girl named Patience. She was born and raised in Nigeria. I lied. She was born in America, and then her family moved to Nigeria. So she's actually an American citizen, but she has been living in Nigeria with her dad. Her dad is a well-off individual. He's like an officer in something, or he's part of government or something. And so she lives very well off, but it is time for her to go to college. Patience is going to go to Lagos, and she is going to attend college. Her dad tells her, okay, this is your time out. You need to stay on the straight and narrow. Well, Patience has no desire to stay on the straight and narrow because Patience wants to go to New York. Patience wants to go to New York and become a fashion designer, but even more so, she wants to see her mother again. Patience has not seen her mother since she was, 8 years old? I think sometime around that, because her mother moved back to America. And Patience doesn't know why. She doesn't know why her mother moved back to America. She doesn't know why her mother never came back to get her. Her dad doesn't like to talk about her mother. Patience lives with her stepmom, her half-sister, and her dad. And so she's just never heard, they don't talk about her mother. And so she's like, I want to go to America and find my mom. Well, Patience makes it to Lagos, and she starts to get in trouble. She finds herself in trouble. She finds herself hanging with the wrong crowd. Her cousin gets her roped up and all types of stuff, but Patience is doing what she has to do in order to eventually make it to New York City. So in this book, you are following Patience's journey as she tries to, move into adulthood, as she tries to navigate the world, not having her daddy on her back, and as she tries to get to New York City. I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars. This book was so surprising. I had no clue what this book was about. I never heard anyone talk about it, but it was a slow ride, but it was interesting to hear about Patience. I was reading this book, and I was becoming more and more interested. At first, I started reading, and I was just like, here we go. Here we go. I just wasn't in the mood for another slow story. I just said, here we go. But then as I read it and I'm like, what's going on with Patience? I became more and more interested. The reason why this book is not 5 out of 5 stars is because of the ending. I felt the ending was rushed. If the ending was slow, I think this could have been a 5 out of 5 star read. This was surprising for me. Let's move on. The most what the fuck book I read this month was New York, My Village by Uwem Akpan. So in this book, we have a guy who is headed to America because he has gotten his work visa. That's a whole thing. And he is going to be an editor on an anthology at this publishing house. So he goes through all this stuff that at the U.S. Embassy in Nigeria. and it kind of traumatizes him. He gets traumatized by the U.S. Embassy and them trying to give him a work visa, but eventually he does get a work visa, and he heads off to New York City. And when he goes to New York City, he realizes that same treatment he got at the U.S. Embassy, this same like, what's the word? When him being degraded at the U.S. Embassy would go off and like be the exact same experience he had in America. And so you're following him throughout this book, and he's in New York City, and he's trying to figure out like who he is as a person and what it means to be him. And he's learning all about other people's different cultures and what effect that has on him. That is a very loose way of telling this story, but that's what it's about. It's about a guy who goes to New York City and things happen to him. There's no huge plot. There's no plot I can tell you about. It's about a guy who goes to New York City and starts editing an anthology, and the things that happen to him along the way during his time in New York City. I have thought about this book like more since the vlog that I put it in, and the more I think about it, the more I actually find this book more and more brilliant. This book is brilliant. What this book is trying to say about like community and family and racism and xenophobia and, oppression and this idea of the American dream is also brilliant, and the way it chooses to do it. The most fascinating part about this book is the bed bugs idea of this book. You have to read it to understand what I'm talking about. But I've now moved to the part where I think it's brilliant. I think what this book was doing with the bed bugs was absolutely brilliant. And what it was doing with the apartment complex he was living in and the landlord he had, I thought everything was so brilliant. The reason why I'm giving this book 4 and not 5 stars, I do think this book could have been told in less pages. The story could have been told in less pages. I think that this book gets the rambling a little bit, and it's just like, once we've already been down 2 rabbit holes, we don't need to go down 3. That's what it feels like. We meet a lot of characters along the way. There's a lot of things along the way. The thing that's really interesting about this book, you almost become the character. Yes, if you read this book, I think you almost become the character, because the character in this book starts to go crazy. And you start to go crazy too reading this book. If you read it, you might get it. You start to go crazy with the character. Like, you slowly see the character going down this path, and you start going down the path with the character. You're just like, this book is a very interesting reading experience. It's not for everyone. This book is not for everyone. But I think the people it's for, I think will get it. This was an interesting read. We move on to my favorite book of the month. It is Talia Hibbert's Highly Suspicious and Unfairly Cute. This was the February Lily Reads book club pick, and in this book we have 2 main characters. They used to be besties at a time, but they're not besties anymore because, things have happened and they both run with a different crowd. And so, these 2 characters end up being in the same class, and they end up having to do something after school because they both get in like trouble for something. And he ends up being the cause of her hurting her wrist, right? And so he's like, okay, I feel really bad for hurting you, so I'm going to drive you around. And so she has this little seminar for this little like scholarship that she wants to do, and he drives her to it, and he's like, I should go in too. And so he goes into the little meeting for this scholarship, and he wants to join, and he wants to be a part of this. And so because of that starts them on their journey together. They both are chosen to embark on this like camping trip, this camping experience, and to win this scholarship. And so they start to become friends again. And so you start to learn about their relationship, learn why they don't like each other, and you also get to see them fall in love. Go watch the book club. Go watch the book club if you want to know why I enjoy this book. This is Talia Hibbert's best book. Talia Hibbert, I believe, is being held back by writing adult romance. She is so good at dialogue. Talia Hibbert in dialogue is so good. She's so good at it. I love this book. Talia Hibbert, you will be famous in this house forever, because this is my favorite book of the year so far. This might be my favorite young adult book of all time. I can't say enough. Recitative by Toni Morrison. Recitative is a short story that Toni Morrison wrote. It was published in some anthologies back in the day, but it was binded by itself after Toni Morrison's death with a forward introduction by Zadie Smith. And in this book, you are following two characters as they live in this orphanage, and then as they leave the orphanage and go into the real world. And in this book, you are not told who's black or who's white, but you're supposed to get an understanding of the characters based off of what they do. 5 out of 5 stars. This is one of my favorite books I've read so far this year. Toni Morrison just has a way with words. Toni Morrison has this way where once you read one of her books or one of her stories, you're never the same after. There's you before you read a certain Toni Morrison book, and there's you after it. Toni Morrison is also a wordsmith, so you don't also fully understand everything that Toni Morrison is saying. Like, Toni Morrison, like, it's highbrow. Like, I love the woman. Toni Morrison is highbrow, and you don't fully get it, but that adds to the intrigue of Toni Morrison. This is what's so interesting about Toni Morrison's work. I read The Bluest Eyes when I was like a child. And so as I get older and gain knowledge, there's things that are in that book that I don't go to understand until 5-10 years later. And that's what's so interesting about Toni Morrison's work. It's like, it stays with you, and then when you learn a little bit more about life, certain things in her books make more sense. Certain things in her stories make more sense. So this book just had a big impression on me, and I'm giving it 5 out of 5 stars. Zadie Smith's introduction, 5 out of 5 stars. I love it. Let's move on. Oh my God, February was a long month. 16 and Pregnant. So MTV Entertainment Books is back as a publishing house under Simon & Schuster, and they have they're going to put out 3 books this year, and I picked up 16 and Pregnant by Layla Thomas. In this book, we are following 2 girls who live in Las Vegas. And one of them is pregnant. One of them is pregnant, and she is trying to deal with what that means for her family and what she should do with the pregnancy. And then we're also following another girl who is the best friend of the girl who is pregnant, and she's trying to deal with what her life is going to be. And her best friend is pregnant, but she's still trying to be a high schooler and what this means. They're both struggling with what it means to be Black young adults and have big decisions to make, and big decisions to make for yourself and how those decisions affect your future. I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars. This book to me was done with so much care. I think a lot of people will not like this book. They'll find this book stereotypical, and they won't understand a purpose of a book like this. But Black girls do get pregnant. Black girls do get pregnant. Black girls do go through stuff. And I think what sets this apart from like just a book about Black girls being pregnant or a book about Black girls who are from the hood being pregnant is the care that went into it. These stories deserve to be told. Girls from the hood deserve to have stories told about them. And I hate when people just be like, this is stereotypical. Why they painting Black girls out like this? Like, Black girls do act like this. Black girls do talk like this. And Black girls who do act like this deserve to be loved. They deserve to be treated with respect. They deserve to have their story told, and they're important and they're beautiful. And I think this book highlighted those things. I just feel like a lot of times people don't want to tell stories like this because they're afraid of the blowback. But it's like, if you're intentional and you're thoughtful and you put purpose behind what you do, like I believe Layla Thomas did, this book could be brilliant. And I thought this book was just really well done. So I'm giving it 4 out of 5 stars. And I don't give a fuck what anyone else says. As you walk on by, probably the most forgettable book that I read in the month of February. So this book follows a boy who is in a group of friends, and they like to give each other dares. Like every Friday, they have to complete a dare, and his dare is to ask one of the most popular boys at school out on a date at a party. And so they go to this party, and he's like unsure of what he should do because he actually has a crush on the boy. So he ends up trying to hide away so he doesn't have to complete the dare. But while he's hiding away, he meets some other people from the school, and they start to all talk about their problems, and he kind of finds a new friend group, and it makes him question his old life, and it makes him question himself and his desires and the way he has gone about his entire high school career. And that's pretty much what this book is about. What did I give this book? 3 out of 5 stars. Most of this book takes place at a party, and the party is boring. Like, the stuff there, like, it's just, this book, it's just a little boring at times. The daddy in this book is miserable. He is a miserable human being. I disliked him so deeply, but this book never just had the fire behind it. It's not a bad book, that's why I'm giving it 3 stars, but it just never had the fire behind it I needed this book to have. It's just very lackadaisical. It's just very, we're here, we're at this party, then we're in the car, then we're here, It just, it never really hit the mark for me, so it's just very forgettable. 3 out of 5 stars. The next book we have, The Wrong Kind of Weird. In this book, we are following a boy. He is a nerd. He's proud to be a nerd. He's in this like nerdy group, but he has a secret. And his secret is he's dating the most attractive girl in school. He's not dating. He's sneaky linking with the most attractive girl in school, but he hasn't told anyone about it. And so he wants to be able to come out about his relationship with this girl. Wrong words. Come out is not the word. He wants to be able to tell people about his relationship with this girl, but first he wants to be cool because he believes that the girl that he is sneaky linking with will be more proud of being with him if he becomes cool, if he becomes part of their friend group. So he sets out on this journey to become part of this friend group of cool people, and of course along the way he finds out about himself. I gave this book 3.5 out of 5 stars. I found this book like ridiculously vulgar, and maybe that's just the old lady in me, because I was like, this book gets a little bit vulgar at times, and then once again, it goes back to, there wasn't this like, I know when I read a young adult book where I just want to scream from the rooftops, it's so good. Those are my 4 or 5 star young adult books. This didn't give that. It was almost close to being 4 stars, but then it was too short for me to do it. And then I felt the synopsis I just told you, I feel constantly gets reintroduced throughout the entire book. Like, we get the purpose of the book, and then that concept is reintroduced again, and then reintroduced again. It's just like, can we just keep going with the story? Like, why is the plot constantly being introduced to us multiple times in the book? So 3.5 out of 5 stars. The next thing we have is Blackout. So the Lily Reed's book club pick for January was Whiteout. And so I decided it was time to pick up Blackout. I never even read Blackout. So Blackout has all of our favorite young adult Black authors. You have Angie Thomas, Ashley Woodfolk. You have Nicole Yoon. I've been calling her Nicola. Her name is just Nicole. Like Nicola. Nicole, right? I don't know. Nicole Yoon, Daniel Clay, and Tiffany D. Jackson and Nick Stone. They all wrote this book, and it is a collection of short stories about these people who are in New York City during a blackout. I enjoyed every single one of these stories except one. One story I did not like, but I enjoyed every single one before then, so I'm giving this book 4 out of 5 stars. I enjoyed every single love story. Some of the overarching story that Tiffany D. Jackson wrote was excellent. And then there's also this one that takes place on a train between 2 boys, and they're on a train and they're like from different, walks of life when it comes to like high school. I thought was brilliant. Some of these are so good. There's one about in an Uber that was so good. Like, some of these stories are so good. And then there's one I do not like. So I'm giving this book 4 out of 5 stars. I liked it. And if I would have read that one first, then I would have been even more comfortable making Whiteout the Lily Reed's book club. So Lily Reed's book club choice for January. So I adored Whiteout, gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars, gave this one 4 out of 5 stars, and if they make another one, child, I'm gonna be there too. Allegedly, by Tiffany D. Jackson. So this book is about a girl who is in like a halfway house for little kids who have like harmed people. So she was convicted of murder. She was convicted of murdering this little girl. Allegedly. That's why the book is called Allegedly. And basically she's in this like halfway house because they're trying to see if she can become like a member of society. Like, are you just too far gone, or can you eventually be a part of society and not kill people? But so basically you're hearing this story about this girl who has been accused of murder, and basically she's like, did I do it? Did I not? And you're trying to figure out her story. Remember I said Toni Morrison has a way of writing that leaves you like a little unsettled? Tiffany D. Jackson has has the exact same thing. And I think it's the measure of if you like Tiffany D. Jackson or if you don't. Some people can't deal with that like unsettlingness that Tiffany D. Jackson likes to leave a book. Some people find it silly, or some people are just like, whoa, like I can't do this. And then you have people like me who love it. I love the way Tiffany D. Jackson writes her books. I love how unsettled you feel at the end of her books. I love how when you're reading a Tiffany D. Jackson book, you're never quite sure where you're like at in the book. Like you never are quite sure if what you're being told is actually what you should be being told. I loved it. I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars because the more I think about this ending, the more it like gags me. I feel like there's this idea of like believing children and like do black children, like this idea of believing black children and giving black children a chance. And also this idea of like what happens when you leave black children unsupervised and this care that black children desire and black children deserve. That's what I feel like is at the root of this book. And it's so interesting to me. You could read this book at face value and get what you want, but you could also add this deeper meaning of like believing black children and also caring for black children and what that means and what's the consequences of not caring about black children. I loved it. 5 out of 5 stars. Let's Hear a Rhyme. Let's Hear a Rhyme by Tiffany D. Jackson. This book is about 3 kids who decide to give a dead person a fake rap group. So this girl, her brother is dead, and these 2 boys, their best friend, has died via gun violence. They do not know why he got shot. They do not know what he's been up to, but they do know he used to be a rapper. He wanted to be a rapper. So they find a bunch of his old like raps, and they are like, we can give him a rap career even in death. And so they set off to give him a rap career, and they run into all types of obstacles along the way. And they also run into this like what happened to him, like why did he get shot and what's going on. So there's like a mystery also in this book. I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars. This book had so much heart. These little kids not wanting to leave their best friend behind, you know, that like makes me emotional because I think of all the kids who have died and how many people who have seen their like friends die, and this idea that you don't want to leave them behind. You're going through life and you just don't. You miss them. You like see all the things that they deserve to have, and them wanting to take him along the way and give him everything he deserved. And the idea of giving someone what they deserve, even in death, it makes me emotional. And so yeah, and then there's this mystery that's like really intriguing because I want to know why he got shot too. So I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars. This book also will be like my number 2 most surprising book of the month because whoa. This book was like surprisingly good. So yeah, a book I didn't like so much, White Smoke. This book is about a blended family who moves into this like house that their mom got for free because they're trying to gentrify the neighborhood, and that house may be haunted. I don't like haunted house stories. I'ma say it. I don't like. I'm reading a haunted house story right now in like my current moment, and I'm not liking it. I don't think I like haunted house stories. This book, I gave 3 out of 5 stars. Just not for me. I think this is Tiffany D. Jackson not at her best. I think Tiffany D. Jackson was trying to do something and she wasn't fully ready to do what she was trying to do in this book. And so none of the pieces really hit for me. The haunted house element didn't hit. The gentrification element didn't hit. The girl is like addicted to like drugs. Her backstory didn't hit for me. Nothing really hit for me. So I was just sitting here feeling a little bit incomplete, feeling a little bit hungry at the end. And so I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. The last book that I read was Nightcrawling. Nightcrawling is a book that was written by a child, but this book is about a girl who has decided she is going to venture into prostitution in order to pay her bills. Her mama is gone. She used to have people that looked out for her, but they're kind of going too. She has a brother who don't want to get a job, and so she's also taking care of this boy in her neighborhood. And so she's like, I gotta make ends meet, so I'ma see what prostitution got for me. And through that, she ends up getting entangled with the police, and there's a whole thing going on with that. And that's what this book is about. This book could have been great. This book, I can't find the English to tell you, but you ever read a book that just needs an edge to it, just needs a punch to it? That is this book, and I am blaming it on the author being so young. I think the author of this book, Layla, she's gonna look back when she's like 30 and be like, I could have wrote that book better. And imagine that, because this book was already like critically acclaimed. I'm giving this book 4 out of 5 stars, by the way, but it just needed like someone older to write it, because the topics in this book are so not gruesome, because the topics in this book are so hard hitting. It needs someone who can write with the edge that this book needs, because oftentimes this book doesn't take it fully there, and so you're expected to care about this character. Obviously, a girl being like sexually assaulted by like the police force is going to evoke something in you, but that's just because hopefully you have feelings and I have feelings, and it's going to do that. But the writing doesn't make you feel something. It's like at times it's hard to like really feel like the character is a real person, if that makes sense, because the writing doesn't humanize her. You're hearing about these events, they're tragic, so obviously like, whoa, these are tragic, but you never feel like you on the streets with her. You never feel like you in the room with the police officers with her. You never feel like you on the ground with her. And it's because this book doesn't get seedy and nasty the way it needs to for you to really feel the impact. You feel like you're reading a story. You're reading a story from someone who is writing about something they've never experienced. And of course, most books are written by people who haven't experienced the thing they're writing about. But that's what makes you a good writer. What makes you a good writer is being able to like put the reader in this experience, because you just are writing it so well. And this book doesn't do that. And I think it's something a child just wouldn't be. Someone as young as her wouldn't be able to do. It's something that comes with more and more experience. So I am giving this book 4 out of 5 stars because I did enjoy the book. But I do think this book, it's 4 leaning 3.5 more than this 4 leaning 4.5. It just needed to take me there, and it didn't. So anyways, I'm going to try to hold up all 15 books that I read in the month of February, okay? Give me a second. Okay, you guys. Here is all of the books that I read in February. It was 15. That's a really good reading month for me. I actually feel like I could have did more, honestly. But these are all the books. They're gonna fall. I love you guys so much, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!